India leading the pack of recession-proof global economies. And Shweta, this point that you made, the fact that we've made all the right decisions, I would think, in the last couple of years, especially after the pandemic. I think we put our heads down, took all the right steps. We didn't overspend, we didn't overbuild. We've made all the right investments, especially in infrastructure. Our UPI, that's a big game changer. 11 billion transactions a month. It's not monetized yet, but I think it's something that's never been done in the history of the world. The fact that we have a demographic dividend, that's another thing that's working in our favor. And that demographic dividend, as Sri mentioned, that's going to last well into the middle of this century. China is going to be looking at something like a population of with a median age of 50, when India is going to be just 38, the world's largest young population. I think the future is really bright, and that's one of the reasons why you have this incredible lineup of leaders lining up behind India. You know, this puppy and Jappy would not work if it were not for the economy, stupid.
Absolutely.
It's
The
fundamentals.
The fundamentals of the economies.
Yes.
And let's spend a minute or two to discuss India's macro picture, because that is where we'll get a better picture of how and where India is headed. Let's talk about GDP for that matter. 6.3%, I believe, Sandeep, is an underestimation of what India will grow at. It will grow anywhere to the tune of 7 to 7.3%. That is the estimate coming in. These are some of the late estimates. Advanced estimates suggest that there could be an upward revision as well. Now, GDP set aside, India has a dream. It wants to be the third biggest economy, $7 trillion economy, trillion dollar economy by the turn of the decade. What will, according to you, Rakesh, first to you, be the challenges that India is faced with? We understand inflation is also under control. Headline inflation could perhaps play a spoil sport. We have a very prudent fiscal glide path, 5.8% this year, 5.1% next year. What are the challenges that you are foreseeing?
Before I come to challenges, Shweta, I think, we were discussing demography. I have a certain, play on that. It's a very nice, interesting perspective when demography plays with democracy. That's the dividend India has.
Yeah, the 2 Ds.
The 2 Ds,
Right,
and
absolutely.
led by digitization. So that becomes the 3 Ds.
Yes.
I like your acronyms.
Yeah, so coming to be learning from Mr. Modi, actually the acronym business was started by Venkaiah Naidu when he was the urban development minister, and of course he became the vice president. He never left his favorite pastime of creating these acronyms, which at times were extremely popular. The good thing about the India story and the leadership that it is driving right from state to center is that we are cognizant of our challenges.
Yes.
So the fact that we have stayed away or steered away from something called UBIC, where you essentially transfer cash in times of emergency like COVID. There was immense pressure on Mr. Modi and some of the states as well, from ruling opposition and from global intellectuals.
From reputed economists.
Let's leave them nameless for a while, because that argument has shown the truth of the matter is that we took the right decision by being fiscally prudent. We steered the course and we could achieve the growth. The other most important point here is that the government led from the front. See, private sector investment is still a challenge. I still call it a laggard because they're not truly kicking in despite expectations from the Prime Minister, the Finance Minister. You can't take them by the collar, but then you can nudge them. They're still not actually playing the game they're supposed to game. There are issues they have, which I'll come separately, but the fact of the matter is that investment for a change was led by the government. It set the tone. Globally, GDP comprises 70 to 75% by private sector. In India, we have reversed the paradigm. Imagine once private sector investment kicks in the same proportion or more than the government investment, look at the momentous impact it will have on the economy.
Absolutely.
Challenges are many. I think, unemployment is a challenge. A lot of states, as I mentioned, are still really to do a catching up. You can't have a family where you have some members, who are extremely weak and poor, are unable to run with the sibling. That has its own challenges. This north-south divide, which unfortunately is being used for political purposes, is a challenge on ground economically also. And in that sense, addressing those concerns, where the Prime Minister talks about Team India, where states are also collaborating. India had the largest representation in Davos, for instance, this time in January, where 5 state governments went there. So that shows that everybody wants to grow.
Spirit of cooperative federalism.
Competitive
And
federalism.
competitive federalism.
We have seen with Foxconn, Karnataka is also chasing them, Tamil Nadu is also chasing them. So that's very interesting and very good. But unemployment, so this demography can turn a liability if we don't truly address them the way they are. We have to rise to a situation where their true potential is truly leveraged. We are yet not there. I mean, demography and democracy is fine. The elections are there. First time voters will cast their vote. The number is swelling up. Women are getting in there in that first time voter as well. That equality is there. But if you don't have jobs for them, that is going to create, unrest of all kinds, social, political, and economic.
Exactly. In fact, Mr. Kara, I would like to add a fourth D to that, which is that demography is not destiny, as they say. So it's not enough to just have a young population if you don't have jobs, if you're not skilling them, if they don't have high quality jobs.
It could be counterproductive, as I said.
Absolutely. It could rebound. There could be social unrest. There could be anarchy. I mean, Afghanistan today is one of the youngest countries in the world. But look where they are today.
To what use?
What use is that? They're probably, they're terrorists and they're gun runners and drug traffickers. So is that the kind of thing that we are looking at if, if unemployment is not tackled, if skilling is not tackled? I mean, that is a very, very big area of concern.
Absolutely, Sandeep. But I think that's also the opportunity.
Yes.
So what the world is really looking at is, okay, there are certain pockets where there's still investment required, where there are significant improvements required. So that from an investment point of view is actually an opportunity for someone.
Yes.
So even this whole aspect of skilling workers, it's an opportunity for someone who's in the space of skilling people, right? And industry, of course, will absorb the workforce that comes out of these training institutes and colleges. But what we have to understand finally is that we don't live in isolation. So our growth, our performance will be relative to the rest of the world.
Yes.
So tomorrow, let's say for whatever reason, Shweta talked about the wars that are going on. For whatever reason, let's say there's a flare-up, which is quite likely. So, things could at any time flare up into something which is global.
Right.
In that scenario, how protected is India? India is relatively protected.
Yes.
But is it absolutely protected from anything that happens around the world? Absolutely not. Right? So I think it's safe to say that that's what the world is also looking at. I mean, they obviously are aware of the challenges that we face, the disruptions that could happen to the supply chain, inflation going up, and all those parts. But they're looking at markets which are relatively insulated.
Right.
I think that is India's big attraction.
Absolutely.
No one is saying that, nothing will go wrong in India.
Absolutely.
But am I relatively safe being here compared to another country? I think that's the decision that fund managers and the people who are putting their money where their mouth is, that's the decision they're making.
Let's watch this excerpt from our story, News9 Plus story that we did recently. It's called Bullish on India. Let's watch.
Some of the policies that Prime Minister Modi's brought in is attracting investors to India.
Our growth story has been bought by all investors.
What would run in India's favor is this is a country which for 20, 30 years, the economy and the stock market have delivered performance which has not been matched by any other EM.
It's important to recognize the steps that we have made, and also recognize that these policy steps will bring results.
Streaming on News9 Plus. News is now content. Subscribe and get free vouchers.